Arsenal versus Manchester City. I think we can point to one person who had a good game today for Arsenal, but we don't want to get so negative. We'll talk about it today. We've got Jared, we've got me, and we've got the Unicorn. So this is the post-game episode of the Gooners Pod.
Once upon a time, way back when there were only 9,000 Arsenal podcasts, 6 young men from various backgrounds. A young basketball prodigy with more trophies in the last 20 years than Tottenham Hotspur. An Irish kid with a horrible haircut. A young Jewish nerd who hadn't discovered food yet. A child from Hemel Hempstead who didn't want to be English no more. A handsome young man who learned to play football on the hard streets of Disney World. And a young Mexican AC Milan fan. Hatched a plan to take over the world of Arsenal podcasts. But then these boys became men. Jared. Ewan. Magic. Aston. Andy, and Miguel, and the rest, my friends, is history. And now, all these years later, you tune in every so often to hear their incredible takes, their football knowledge, and their sensual advice. But now, it's gone too far. You, our fans, are at long last witness to season
7.
Welcome to the Gooners Pod.
Hello and welcome to the Gooners Pod, Season 7, Episode 84. It is a podcast where we speak to literally threes of you who are all feeling the same thing. Look, I got home from the game today, not from the game, but from the pub watching the game today, and I had to surround myself with water and unicorns. Jared, my friend, where did you watch the game today? Were you in your studio of artwork and posters and uniforms?
No, unfortunately not. Sat upstairs in the living room, took a half day off of work, just sat there and enjoyed about 45 minutes and didn't enjoy about 45 minutes. So it was a mixed bag today.
Yeah, definitely a mixed bag, and a bag that ended up being full of fecal matter, as I think we could say. Was it, let's find out from the people that are on the podcast, which is you and me, and potentially one more, and the folks in the chat, how they feel about this, because I think it's a tale of perspective. Are we looking at this by a 45-minute perspective? Are we looking at it from a week's perspective? Are we looking at it as a 2 weeks perspective, a season, a month, a 4-season, a process? Because, the answer is really different depending on how you look at things right now. And I think it shows a lot about how you like to deal with pain as to how you're looking at it right now. But Jared, I'm going to hand this over to you because you're the man who does the preparation, and I'm just the guy who says stupid shit.
Yeah, what little preparation there is, that's for sure. And I think you make a good point. If you looked at this in the perspective of where we were 4 years ago to now, you'd say, man, this team's on the right track, massive improvement. If you look at what we thought 2.5 hours ago to now, I think you'd get a pretty remarkably different opinion as far as where we're at. But we'll start it out today, and we're going to have plenty of time to go through everybody's comments about what they thought of the game today and what they think it means for the rest of the year. But we're going to start out at the beginning. The big news of the day, I'm sure, earlier in the day, the news came out for you and I here in the States. Thomas Partey was in training yesterday. In Arteta's presser, he said no injuries, everybody'd be available. We find out this morning, the exact opposite. He's not available. They say it's a precaution. What did you think when you heard that news as far as our chances for the game today? Did you think it was a huge impact, or did you kind of feel like with the January signings as Jorginho, this is what we're preparing for?
I mean, it was the first thing I saw when I woke up this morning. I was up late working last night. I slept. I woke up at 9 a.m. my time today to a tweet from Andrew Allen. Thank you, Andrew, fuck you, Andrew. And yeah, he ruined my day. And the day was just getting started. What's the expression when someone like shits in your coffee or something like that? Literally, that's what Andrew did to me today. And so I'm blaming it on him. Not good, but with the hindsight of now having watched the game, that wasn't where we lost this game. The downgrade from Partey to Jorginho, and maybe there's a valid reason to think differently, but the downgrade from Partey to Jorginho to me was not the reason we lost today, but it didn't help, and it's of course of great concern.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think there's any reasonable person that would say that we lost that game today because of that change in the lineup. Jorginho, I thought, had a brilliant first half, and my first thought, I'm with you. First thing I saw when I woke up was the news that Partey potentially was out. I know there was a lot of back and forth as far as whether those sources were credible, but it's the area that you're either in the camp that we're done without Thomas Partey, or you're in the camp that this is exactly why we signed Jorginho, for when these games come up, we're more well prepared. And I think the latter for me came to fruition. Obviously, it's easy to say that in hindsight. My thought, like everybody else, was a little tinge of panic first thing in the morning. But I thought Jorginho carried himself extraordinarily well, especially in the first half. And for me, it wasn't necessarily just the upgrade in talent we would have over, say, a Lokonga with him in there, but it's the upgrade in leadership. I tweeted it at the time. I think it was the 4-minute mark of the game on 2 separate occasions. Once he was, directing traffic from the midfield, and the other at a dead ball, he had grabbed Nketiah and was pointing out to him where he needed to be and trying to make some adjustments. So there's no question in my eyes that he was an upgrade on what we had as the other options. The question is he enough of an upgrade if Thomas Partey, it doesn't sound like this is much. They say precautionary, but do you think Jorginho's enough if he's out an extended period?
I mean, look, Gooners, take it from me. Partey's out for the next 18 months. I mean, that's where I'm starting from, and if it's anything better than that, I'll be elated. From a playing perspective, there are no minor thigh injuries in Arsenal. Everyone else recovers from thigh injuries right away, whether those thighs are milky or not, and it's just. Our thigh injuries are like 1.5-year situation. We got your Thomas Rosickis, and we got all those other stuff. But look, Jorginho was anonymous when you wanted him to be, in the sense that we didn't see him making any significant mistakes. And he was everything that we signed him to be in the other situations. He clears a ball off the line, which, it looks like pinball, but it's a massive thing to know exactly where to be. Would Lokonga have been right where he was to clear that shot off the line? No. Joey's saying that Jorginho was our best player today, which is it's a huge call, but it's one that I wouldn't argue against. I might give it to Saka, but I mean, it's a valid point. And I remember talking about, in fact, I think it was it Tom Canton who like we contractually meant we have to mention him every podcast. Someone said and yeah, it was Tom who said, tell me that Thomas Partey isn't fit for the Manchester City game on February 15th. And this was 2 or 3 weeks ago. So actually I'm going to blame Tom for the injury, because he willed it into being. Would you rather have Sambi Lokonga playing in that position on the day of, or Jorginho? That's all you need to understand whether this was a smart signing or not. You can argue about whether there should have been another signing or a better signing or or a 60 million pound player that was our guy for the next 5 years or not. But this was the reason we signed Jorginho, and he did a fine job in deputizing for Thomas Partey. Maybe a better than fine job. So, yeah, I mean, it wasn't the way I wanted to wake up today, but and obviously playing really well in a loss isn't the type of thing to make you fall in love with a player, but he did a job. He was a professional today, and our problems were definitely elsewhere.
I agree. And I think that's the key point. It was a professional performance. A guy who hasn't had much time in the squad, hasn't played much since he came to Arsenal, starts in what is not just our biggest game of the year, but probably the biggest game of the Emirates in the last handful of years, and took to it like a duck to water. In the first half, I thought he was brilliant. He made a number of interceptions. His long passing from a deeper midfield position, kind of broke their lines on a couple of occasions. And I thought he was great overall. And I think in the chat, King Joey's shout for him as best player today, I think is a fair one. There's always a split decision on that, but I think he's got a pretty solid argument in his favor. Now, one thing you said there was he was really good when you heard his name, and when you didn't hear his name, that's fine because he wasn't making any major errors. That sort of segues us into the other change we saw in the lineup today, Tomiyasu for Ben White, which for the entire first half, really, I thought we looked the better side and we were in control of the game. And it was a goal that, in my eyes, was against the run of play. When you see that happen to a guy, is a thought in your mind that this was the wrong substitution? Or do you look at it as every season at some point, somebody just makes one of those plays that has you scratching your head saying, what in the world were you thinking? And it just fell at a bad time for him.
If you point to that situation and say, this is Arteta's fault because he should have known better by putting Tomiyasu in for Ben White, and when you look at exactly what happened, I mean, if you're going to say that was a bad substitution, then I'm sorry, I have nothing to say to you. This was a bad moment, and Ben White has had bad moments. Gabriel Jesus has had bad moments. Granit Xhaka's had bad moments. Aaron Ramsdale's had bad moments. I mean, they've all had bad moments. You hate to see it because it is it gave them the edge to where we had to claw back in a game that we were dominating at the time. Maybe, not dominating 90-10, but dominating 60-40, dominating 65-35. And it was an individual error. It was a bad pass. Is Tomiyasu a bad defender? Does he do these things frequently and mindlessly? No, which is why it was so surprising and shocking today. So was it the fact that he hasn't played lately? Was it who knows what it was? It was one act in a vacuum that could happen in any situation. There's a motorcycle landing on my house right now. That wasn't about the substitution. It was about a single error made by a single player. And I felt for him. And speaking of feeling for people, I am going to bring in someone who I absolutely love. I'm not going to talk about feeling anything because that would be inappropriate and she wouldn't like it anyway. Sophie, fresh off of her, we're at ease. She looks, are you at the North Pole right now?
So no, I'm actually I didn't change my whole wardrobe. I didn't do like a Golden Globes Oscar thing. I just put my Union Jack hat on, and I have the worst migraine.
Oh,
and so I had to
you
take
don't have to do this. We want
no. It's good distraction for me. Trust me. And so I had to put my glasses on when I just did the show because I can't read the chat without my glasses, because I'm an old lady now. I've hit 50. But then when I thought, gosh,
I'll know.
Jared just sent me the link. You know what? If I put my shades on, I think this is exactly the tonic I need right now.
I'll know what being 50 is like in a few weeks, and then we can be in the club together.
Well, I kind of told a lie. I'm 51.
Well, I know you're not exactly 50, but you are 50. You have been 50.
I've been 50. Crazy, man.
Welcome to the pod. Thank you for having me on while I was in an Uber. I'm sorry my internet wasn't great then.
It's all right.
Phone internet, but great show, spitting some truths. And Jared, we were talking, not to take it away, but we were talking about Tomiyasu. What's your feeling on the substitution of Ben White to Tomiyasu? Because I think if you asked 75% of Arsenal fans before the game whether it was time to make that change, they would have agreed. And then all of them are suddenly saying that, that it was a bad substitution because of one individual error. So what's your thoughts, Soph?
Hindsight 2020 is just the best stuff, isn't it? Also, I think Jared should add his honeymoon image so it matches your unicorn and your pool. Like, you know what I mean? I'm sure you have something really cool that can. Oh, look at that!
I know I should have added
I'm
some
gonna
on.
bounce
I've got
on that
1,000 of them.
Yeah, his honeymoon pictures all have me like photoshopped into them.
Sure, of course.
With a unicorn.
So listen, I get the sub, but here's my spin to you guys on that, because so we talk about Arteta having a trusted 11, right? And that he wants to stick with them. They're his guys. You know, Martinelli hasn't had the best of the last couple games. Zinchenko hasn't had the best of the last couple games. And I feel like it's a little bit of an insult to Ben White to say physically you can't match up, considering you were the dude that, was huge against Tottenham twice when we beat them, Chelsea, Manchester United, stood up against a very physical Newcastle team. So I have to know, is Benjamin carrying something? Is he tired? Because as physical as Tomiyasu is, fine, I get that. But I think this was more about aerial duels and being able to back up maybe the centre-backs aerially against Manchester City and Haaland. But if we're talking about Arteta sticking with his trusted 11, why bench Benjamin White?
And
Why
not
not
go
start? You know what I mean? So that's the part I don't get, which is why I think maybe he's not 100%.
So I thought about this a lot earlier when I saw the lineup come out, and I think the thought of bringing in Tomiyasu was sort of twofold. As you said, he's very good aerially, and I think the one place we've been vulnerable of late is on set pieces, and that's an area that he typically helps, because I would imagine if we got into the advanced metrics, he's probably better in the air than even Saliba and Gabriel are. It's an area he really excels. But I thought more so when I saw the City lineup. We saw on the weekend against Villa, they played with Bernardo Silva at left back, sort of playing in that inverted role similar to the way we play Zinchenko. And I thought maybe that played into Arteta's decision to play Tomiyasu out there to not just deal with Jack Grealish, but also Bernardo Silva and his speed when he comes forward, because he did it effectively against Liverpool early in the year to try and take Salah out of the game. But it's certainly a huge ask for a guy who hasn't played a lot of football lately to come in to do a specific job like that.
Sorry, Jared, the Bernardo Silva experiment for me failed. It was horrific, and the fact that he only got booked in the 46th minute after his 700th foul on Saka, like literally, I mean, Saka was, to me, the first half felt like Saka was a superstar, and Manchester City tried to stop the superstar. And they didn't care how they were going to do it. And they had a creative player who is so finesse, like Bernardo Silva, out of character, to just chop him left, right, and center, thinking they could get away with it, right?
He was a body man. He was just basically trying to just end Saka.
Exactly. And I tell you something. If we had 11 Sakas in the second half today, we would have beaten them 4-1.
Yeah, and I completely agree with your thought there that it was a failure. It was the one area where they looked extremely vulnerable at the back. The decision to not play Laporte is an odd one in there, or to have Ake in there paired with Bernardo Silva, I thought was odd, because Ake is not your best choice and Silva's not a left back, and you're putting them in a spot where they're in a partnership they're unfamiliar with and having to deal with Arsenal's most dangerous player without question. And in the first 45, as you said, Saka was clearly the danger man. There were tons of opportunities for him. There was way too much space that they just didn't have the communication to close down, and it created a lot of opportunities for Arsenal. Now, the downside for us is they made it to halftime still at 1-1 and could make that adjustment. And maybe we'll get to that a little bit later when we talk second half, because I thought that was a massive shift.
Do we have to talk about the second half?
I wanted to say, like, honestly, I was sitting there and I said, you know what? I think Pep is saying, wow, what a player Saka is. What I could do with him in my team. That's all I kept thinking in the first half.
Bite your tongue. We don't.
No. But it's the same thing with Klopp and Martinelli, right? They salivate. There's a certain player, and in that first half, Saka was a beast, and I just don't understand how we can go from that performance in the first half to the second half. And I don't want to, I know you, sorry, I just wanted to say it out loud, and not be able to have our adjustments to their adjustments. Because what Pep did was like, he just said, I almost think like, he said to his wife last night while they were watching like Love Island, listen, whatever, I'll teach him. I would let them play in the first half. And then in the second, I will chop them up like a character in a Martin Scorsese movie.
You think that first half was rope-a-dope?
I think he fucked with us.
That makes it even worse. Because I'm willing to agree that at this point in their, and I don't think I'm inventing the wheel by saying that Pep Guardiola is a better Premier League manager than Mikel Arteta.
He's won it, right, several times.
Newsflash, but but the fact that he might have actually just been fucking with us is a little bit.
Well, you see certain managers in history, right, Jared? There's managers that lure you in and allow you to believe that you are manufacturing the tone.
That was apparently a Russian accent that you've just.
Did it sound Russian?
I must break you.
If he dies, he dies.
He dies. You had a guy from Moscow on the pod. By the way,
tennis.
huge pull having a guy from Moscow on the podcast last time.
Evgeny, bless him.
He was great. Where'd you find him? And I don't mean to pull it off base because
no. Evgeny's been listening for a really, really long time, and he sends me DMs all the time. He's a really smart football fan, has really good opinions. When you guys do your fan show, he's definitely someone that you should talk to. He's just a guy living in Russia, and it's not his fault, right?
Oh no. We're not.
Yeah,
about
no. I'm just saying because I know that's what you guys think too. Like he's an Arsenal fan. He's just so happens to live in Moscow, and he's a really smart guy. And I love that.
He was fantastic, and I wanted to give you props for that because obviously you're
I just didn't realize I sounded Russian when I did.
You're pulling squatties from everywhere in the world. Politics aside, it's fantastic. But I've jumped on a point that you were in the process of making, so forgive me.
No, Jared, you just I just don't even remember anymore because I'm not going to lie. I had a shot of vodka before I came on the show.
Did Evgeny give it to you
in honor of the Russian guest?
Exactly.
And I'm on the vodka as well because it's one of the few things I can drink that doesn't have sugar.
I always feel like I could just let my guard down when I come on this show.
Well, we're here for therapy.
That's what we love.
I need therapy right now. There's no doubt about that.
I know.
Let me see. What you're drinking out of today?
I was going to say I'm the only one on the water, but I'm drinking it from.
Oh, look at that!
Where
the hell where is my bell? Hold on. I'll be right back.
I got you covered on the bell, Mike. Yeah, no, it's
love it.
It stays down here. I usually have a water, so I'm not choking to death trying to get through an hour of talking with Mike. Although when it's Mike, I usually only have to talk for about 10 minutes because there's no problem filling time when he's on the show. So, oh my gosh.
Highbury Squad mug. That was what that was about. Highbury Squad mug. All right.
I could have saved you getting wet and just given it the ding.
We
love seeing you make a dramatic entrance back in.
Well, and for the second time in podcast history, or third time, I think I've maybe ruined my computer. but we're gonna soldier on anyway.
But we'll soldier on until it just dies out on you.
Yeah. And then you'll actually have a good podcast after that.
So the one comment Sophie made that I wanted to come back to was talking about their setup in the first half and sort of how we dealt with it and the change that happened pretty shortly after halftime that we all saw. I don't think there's any question they made adjustments and we didn't. And just to sort of put this out there, I think we see this oftentimes in sports when you would look at that first half and say Arsenal was the better side. If anything, we were a little unfortunate to be drawn level. And the way that sort of works against us is, I'm sure in the locker room or in the dressing room, Mikel would say, we're getting the better of it.
I can't believe you
We're going to keep doing what we're doing. And that logic follows. If you're getting the better of it, you're creating what you think are opportunities, you want to stick with it. But the other side is Manchester City, while also being drawn even, can say we didn't get the better of it and we're the ones who need to adjust. So it sort of puts them on the front foot tactically in that they know what we're going to do and try and continue to do. And now they've got the flexibility to make some adjustments, which I thought they did pretty well and pretty quickly in the second half. And there's one moment that I thought was kind of a big shift. But was there anything, I guess I'll go to you on this, Soph, while Mike figures his life out. Was there anything at the start of the second half that sort of raised alarm bells for you that, that they're Man City and they're coming and we're not going to have an easy go of it for the next 45?
I feel the tempo. They started taking more of the initiative and trying to control the game, whereas in the first half they allowed us to really play our game and soaked up the pressure. And I don't know if we figured out how to respond to that well. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful here at all, but I'm not sure that we've cracked the code yet on how to deal with that type of adversity so quickly in a match, right? Where you're so dominant in the first half and then a team makes an adjustment, because they really just made an adjustment and took over. And I'm not sure if it's because Mikel doesn't have his entire personnel yet, but I don't buy that because this is his team.
No,
and he has to be able to trust his bench. And he just, I don't know, like, how can he not see that Zinchenko's not really having a good game and Xhaka's not having a good game, and give Fabio Vieira a chance? What the heck at this point? Like, let Kieran Tierney come on. That's what you have to do as a coach. Every coach will tell you that you need a squad to win a championship. And he saw that at Manchester City. He saw Pep build that and do that. And so I'm surprised he didn't make adjustments earlier, because Pep did. And we're the home team. And that's what I feel is, when you take process to progress with the team, that's one thing. When you take process to progress with the manager, okay, now I need you to show me your in-game management and adaptability. And I'm not sure that we've seen that at the next level just yet.
Yeah, if there was going to be a critique of Arteta, for me, that's it. If there's one area that he still remains, relatively unproven, it's flexibility during the games. And I think part of it is that he's so tactically astute, it almost works against him a little bit at times, and that he'll drop a game plan and say, if we execute this perfectly, we're going to win the game. But if the team's not able to go out there and execute it perfectly, it doesn't matter how good the plan is. And I think he sticks to that too long, that he has the right game plan, when you have to be able to pivot and say, that may be the optimal way to play. But if we're not able to do it, we have to have a something else in the chamber to throw at them, because the second half was a fairly dominant half by City. As dominant as I said we were in the first, I think they were equally in the second.
More so.
And
more so. I agree with Mike there.
Yeah, pumped in the goals on us, certainly. And we'll talk about the goals a little bit. Mike, when you look at them, obviously the first one is a one of those errors by Tomiyasu. You hate to see it, but it happens every once in a while in the season. Guys make those boneheaded plays that leave you scratching your head. Unfortunately, it happens in the biggest game we've had at the Emirates in a while this year. For their latter two goals, it seemed to me that it was areas where we weren't at our sharpest, and those small errors come back to bite us. Did you look at those as Arsenal errors, or just Man City being Man City and doing what they do and putting the ball in the back of the net?
Third goal was Man City being Man City. And by that point, the game had already been won psychologically. Second goal, I think, was another kind of series of errors. I mean, I'll be honest with you, on the second goal, once again, Charles Watts spoiled it for me, because I happened to look at my phone at the wrong moment, and Charles Watts lives in the future. I just emailed him.
Peacock is behind. It happened to me too.
Peacock was 45 seconds behind.
Yeah, I was on the phone with my cousin, and I'm like, no.
Yeah, no. I mean, we've got the ball in their final third, and and I happened to look at my phone, and it pops up 2-1 City, and it was coming or something like that.
Yeah,
and
it's so
and
bad.
I'm like, did I accidentally did I just see an old tweet from when they scored, or when they got a penalty, and it didn't make any sense because they didn't actually get to kick the penalty, so it wasn't 2-1. But like,
Was it a penalty?
it
I think that was a makeup call. Honestly, I think they took pity on us.
no, that was offside. But
Well, no, the penalty. I'm saying
And-
our penalty.
oh, our penalty. Okay, well, we can talk about that. But
Yeah,
no,
sure.
the second goal, it was spoiled. I walked outside the pub because I was so angry at having it ruined for me and knowing that it was bad news. But from everything that I was told by the people at the pub and from what I saw from the replays, Gabrielle kind of had a howler on that one.
No, Zinchenko was.
Okay.
Jared, back me up on this. The first Zinchenko lost the ball first, then Gabrielle had a bit of a howler, and then the third passage of play is what led to the goal. But it started with Zinchenko.
And I think
Jared-
Ramsdale had it covered, if not for the unlucky, yet again, element of the deflection from Tomiyasu. So, I mean,
then Tomiyasu gets involved again, and so has a hand in the first and the second goal.
yeah, no, he did. He did.
Right, shit.
Yeah,
You
I mean,
know,
Tomiyasu a bit unlucky on that deflection, obviously.
One's a mistake. One is an unlucky deflection when you're trying to get back and actually prevent a goal. I don't blame him for the second one.
I don't blame him for the second one. I blame Zinchenko and Gabrielle for the second one.
Yeah. So to answer your question, we gave him 2 goals that they probably didn't otherwise.
Yeah, but we did it.
Yeah, no, we did it. I'm not claiming that this was
now.
It's this isn't. Oh,
that's not that top of the table is not changing.
No,
we've led for the time we have. They will lead for the rest. It's over. I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm not
Listen, let me tell you
you
something, right? I've said on our show, and people last week came at me, and I said, because I'm sorry, I don't see a plan B. And Kevin even said, what are you talking about? He made substitutions. And I said, he makes too many like for likes. He doesn't tweak things enough. He's not adaptable, right? Doesn't mean I don't love him and don't appreciate and respect exactly what he's done. At this level, again, he's going to learn as a manager. He's going to take it up a notch. And maybe he's going to in the next few games, right? Because he's learning too. But he was outscored and outthought in the second half of this match. And I think that if we're going to stick in that second place now, because that's how I'm thinking, he needs to be a little bit more open-minded, and he needs to listen. This Fabio Vieira thing, I'm telling you, I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see it. I still think we have we bought, but we've got.
If he was a £9 million buy, he would have been nice depth. He would have been a nice purchase for depth, but he costs the same amount as Zinchenko. And I'm not about holding price tags against players, but he's not. I mean, he's not as good as ESR. If ESR will ever be healthy again,
Can't rely on him either. He's turning into like a DRB
part 2
/ whatever.
I mean, I don't disagree with anything that you're saying. I'm not ready to come out with we've lost the league yet, but I am feeling very much that way.
We've led since August.
Well, we're
wire to wire.
We're 2 teams headed in very different directions mentally. I mean,
what does the schedule look like? Go on. What are their games versus who? What big games do they have left to play?
Well, they've got Champions League games left to play.
We have Europa League. I want to win the Europa League.
No, that would be nice.
What is this, match week 24 we're on? 38 games is a lot, but I think the last 2, I believe they play Chelsea and Newcastle, which both Newcastle's a difficult one to not come away with 1 point because they draw with everybody, no matter where you're at in the table. And Chelsea, by that point, with the talent, presumably will be a bigger threat than they are now. I think our final 2 games are Wolves, and I'm trying to remember the other, but somebody who's bottom half for sure.
Yeah, our final
Yeah,
games against
we-
Wolves, but by then we're going to be either fighting for second or third, or we're going to be fighting for the title. And I have to agree. I mean, I said with Aston
We
a
have
couple days
Liverpool
ago.
away. We have Liverpool away. We have a resurgent Leicester after Aston Villa, by the way.
Nah, Leicester shit.
No, my
But
point is, if we make it through the next,
I
12
actually think
games
one of our
and we're
tougher
still in
games.
it, it's advantageous for us on the back end, which is when the pressure's really on, and when a young team like us would probably feel it more. So to have the easier fixtures on the back end is probably going to benefit us rather than, away at Anfield. And
We're in a funk. We're in a funk.
None of it matters.
Not too late.
We're in a full-on wobble right now, and the wobble isn't about talent or ability. It's about
It's going Pete Tong.
It's a crisis of confidence, and it's
No bell for Pete Tong.
I didn't hear you say it. It's all down Pete Tong. It's a crisis of confidence. It is a natural reset of teams kind of figuring out what we're doing, which you have to be prepared for. That's the plan B part of everything. And Aston did a good job of G'ing me up for this game on Wednesday or Thursday, wherever we podcasted. But I mean, I came into that conversation basically shitting my pants about the fact that we not while I'm in the pool, but like outside of the pool, about the fact that our mentality was really being, how will we react to these bad decisions going against us? How will we react to, coming up just short against the Evertons of
Mike,
the world?
I don't think you can talk about that when we played the first half that we did. Bollocks to the decisions. The players move on from that. Look at the first half. We were dominant and we didn't take our chances. Eddie had a clear-cut chance. I believe it was Jorginho that crossed the ball in for the header. There were so many moments and we didn't capitalize on them. And that is the difference where I agree with fans, as supportive as I am of what they do and the owners have done, is having a world-class striker, which is what sealed the deal for City. They had the 100 million signing of Grealish come and score, and then they had Haaland put the icing on the cake.
I can't disagree with that. I mean, Eddie Nketiah, for all that I appreciate and enjoy about him, today he showed, and he didn't show why he's not as good as Gabriel Jesus today. He showed why he's not as good as Wout Weghorst today.
Balogun.
Nah, I don't know. We could have a separate conversation on that. But I mean, that
Balogun scores that header. Balogun gets on the end of the Jorginho pass in the second half.
Balogun scores that header against
No,
Rennes.
he scores that header. You know what? Giroud scores that header.
Oh, well, that's what I said at the pub. I said Giroud scores that header 94 times out of 95. I mean, there are 20.
Oh, Morte scores that header.
My son scores that header, and he sucks at headers.
And we need to talk about which header
He
we're
didn't even
discussing.
hit the target, Jared. He didn't even hit the target.
Which time? The first half or the second half?
Both.
Exactly.
The first half one was
clear
exactly.
header.
The second half one was maybe more embarrassing, actually.
That's when you've got to put on frame. If it winds up going straight at Ederson and he saves it, what are you going to do? But you can't put that one off target. No one near him within arm's reach, pretty open. You've got to do better than that if you're going to be a Premier League striker for the long term, which, it's kind of yet to be seen whether or not he will be. But I thought it was great that one of the opening lines, Peter Drury, who's amazing on the cast today, said right at the beginning, kind of what we're talking about. He said, today's game, as far as the title race, it isn't conclusive, but it is really consequential. And I think he's exactly right. And we're feeling sort of the bad end of that, because every Arsenal fan who's been behind the team from week one today is probably nearing a low point as far as where they've been this season. And it's those little moments by, like, Nketiah today, where you see the young squad with maybe in a position where we're down a player, we just don't have the clinicalness that it's going to take to win. Because
the clinicosity.
Both of those headers by Nketiah, There were errors by Manchester City that left him for a free header, and we didn't take advantage. Conversely, Arsenal makes a couple mistakes that sets them up for opportunities, and it's a goal both times. That's the difference between where we are and where they are.
Jared, can I ask you a question? Because you're smarter than me. I hate XG. I don't really understand what it's all about, but like for that opportunity in the first half of a header, is the XG like 0.9 or something like that? Like, what does that mean? What does it mean?
Maths equation?
I mean, I'm not a huge moderate. I don't hate XG, but I think it's lacking a little bit. But that's a pretty good opportunity. One that, Gabriel Jesus is in the game. He probably puts it on frame.
So far in the chat, we have Kim Kallstrom, the Unicorn, Gervinho, the Headless Horseman, Bentner, and Chamak, all scoring that opportunity in the first half. And unfortunately,
Sonogo maybe even.
Oh no, I'm not so sure about that.
No.
But I mean,
mentioned.
So
no, go on, Mike.
Well, and we're not just trying to talk shit about our own players, but that was one of the greatest examples of personnel problems that we have still, even after how we've turned over this club in the way that we have so brilliantly. And we now have a club with value and youth and enthusiasm and buy-in. We still need people that can do the job. And we need people that can do the job if there's an injury. That we brought in Jorginho in case something happened to Partey. We don't have a guy who can finish off those chances. And I don't mean to hyper focus on it, but I mean, Sophie, okay?
She'll be back.
Okay, good. But like, yeah, we are a year or two maybe off of where we thought we'd be competing and having all the pieces in place to win a Premier League title, but we're in a title race right now, and it's pretty valid and understandable to point out the fact that Eddie Nketiah, despite how well he is kind of deputized for Gabriel Jesus and how well he deputized in Aubameyang's place last season, he's not going to win us a Premier League.
It's hard to disagree that with Eddie we're maybe lacking what it takes to win a Premier League. But Soph, I'll come to you. You've already given us kind of the idea that you think the table is now what it's going to be at the top. Watching the first half today and how we competed, when you look at that team, let's just say, for the sake of argument, relatively quickly within the next month, both are healthy and back. If you look at that team and plug in both Thomas Partey and Gabriel Jesus, do you think that's a team that has what it takes to potentially overtake City if they give any wiggle at the top, which is always a question as good as they play the latter half of seasons?
Okay, so let's see. City have Forest, Bournemouth, Newcastle, Palace, West Ham, Liverpool, Southampton, Leicester, Brighton, Arsenal. Oh, what, that's big, right? Fulham, Leeds, Everton.
Let's hope.
Chelsea and Brentford.
That's 45 points. I see them getting 41 of them.
I mean, Mike, I don't see them losing too many of.
No. Well, and especially because they're all now united. I mean, even their shitty ass fans.
This is the shitty thing.
They are now just. They're coming out of their shell now because of this FFP bullshit that none of them understand, but they just know that someone's picking on their club.
I said on Sky Sports, I was like, it's so like everyone was in the press today. They were lauding like this Empire Strikes Back. It was this good versus evil narrative in the British media. And then I said, no, but then there was this innocent Luke Skywalker bit about Arteta, right? And then I said, wow, you guys see it that way. You know what I see when a guy sits there and looks at the media in the eye with these dark eyes and says, I'm not leaving this chair. That's a Martin Scorsese film. This dude is like, going to war. And it's working for them and it's going to work for them. And we're too naive for that. We're not there yet. We're not Scorsese. We're not even David Fincher. We might be like, I don't know, maybe, you know, we're at that J.J. Abrams romanticism with the Star Wars movie and stuff like that, but we need to get colder. We need to get a bit of Kylo Ren. We need to get a little Darth in us. They have it. Bernardo Silva showed it.
This is
We
why we
need
brought
that.
Sophie on. This is why because Jared and I have no movie references for you because we've not worked in the industry. No, I mean,
I sat in the back of a limo with Carrie Fisher, you know.
That's pretty hot.
That was interesting. That's another show.
Yeah, no, we'll do a Fisher cast. But I mean, the worst thing that might have happened for Arsenal this entire season, as much as we celebrated about it, was the FFP charges from the Premier League against them the day after they just wandered their way through a loss against Tottenham. That may end up being the worst thing that happens for us in the short run. Maybe the best thing in the long run, but the worst thing in the short run, because they are now playing in a unified, in a defensive way, and Pep Guardiola knows how to manipulate that into performance.
See, that's exactly what it is. And it's the frustrating part for us, because us with the VAR and the getting points, not getting points and all of that.
That's different.
It's different, but psychologically it's on the manager to take any ammunition you can get and galvanize the team with it and get them to feel like it's, you know, an us against them sort of mentality. And Pep does it as good as anybody in the world. And it doesn't look like, at least yet, Arteta's kind of got that piece.
Yeah, Jared, why couldn't he do that in this game at home at halftime for us to come out and try and at least don't lose this game?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not asking you to win it. There's no divine right to win a game in the Premier League, but don't lose the game. And I know that, okay, the first one was a blatant error. The second was just poor possession, poor defending. It's just like fundamental football, right? Still, it happened. But how is he, and we've seen him galvanize them, how is that not happening at this stage in the season?
It's a good question, because it seems like with what's at stake and the position they put themselves in, the team should be up for that. They should be taking all that momentum, everything that works in their favor, and putting it into the task at hand. And it was, like you said, that the last two goals, you know, City took good advantage of the situation. But the frustrating part for me, when City made the change, Ake to left back, Bernardo Silva up on the right side, their press, which was decent, it wasn't the most overwhelming thing I've ever seen, but it bothered us. And we repeatedly kicked the ball out left, gave them an extra defender in the line. And Zinchenko and Gabriel, it just seemed disjointed. And we turned the ball over in that place time after time after time. And the frustrating part is, whether it's Arteta yelling at somebody to make a tactical shift or just somebody on the pitch recognizing it, you've got to stop putting the ball in that position. If they consistently put you in a dangerous spot every time you do that, the idea that Ramsdale's going to throw it out to Gabriel and kick it to the corner again and again and again was the most frustrating part for me, because as soon as he looked that direction, I'm yelling at my TV, do not send the ball out there. They're ready for that. They've got us figured out in that section of the pitch, and it's just going to end bad for us, which it did. You've got to be able to adjust on the fly. Part of that's on the manager. Part of that's on the senior players in the team, which in our back line, you know, we've got a lot of talent, but, you know, we don't have, you know, a Thiago Silva at Chelsea, somebody who's seasoned and has seen it all and understands how to direct people in real time. Jorginho is somebody who does that a little bit, but for the back line, it was clearly lacking, and it showed. And the repeated offense of making the ball go into a dangerous area, you're just rolling the dice until they take advantage, and they did, and they shoved it down our throat twice and came away with 3 points at the Emirates, which really nobody has been able to do lately. So that made it extra frustrating for me, watching us make a similar mistake repeatedly and not making those adjustments that we'd all like to see, I think.
Yeah, we were really bad with the second ball today. We were terrible with that. You know what? What do you guys think of this? I think that this loss will eat at Arteta more than any loss we've had. I think this will eat him more than Manchester United away at Old Trafford this season.
More than Everton.
Eat him more than Tottenham away last season, the 3-0 battering. It will eat him more than Everton. This will, like Old Trafford, maybe you guys. I wish I could edit this into my show, but it's already gone out live. Because you need time to stop and think and marinate sometimes. Yes, people. Maybe this is also the next big lesson in the season, because you need several lessons. I think, Jared, you may have mentioned that earlier in the show, but maybe this is the second act galvanization, the same way Old Trafford was. Mike and I were at that game. That was brutal. I'm saying
talking
like,
about this being a process?
No, progress. No, progress.
Okay.
Not process, progress. I'm saying
we know we have
you go on a run the same way you did. You go on a run the same way you did after losing to United, right? You now go on a run the same way you did after losing to City. Okay. Because we don't face Liverpool until April.
I would love to. I mean, Liverpool's 9th in the table, but I know what you're saying.
We've got to go to Anfield. It doesn't matter where they are in the table.
I understand that, and I'm more focused on the fact that we may drop points to Villa in Birmingham next week. But the I don't know about that. I don't like our chances in that game, to be quite honest with you, but which is what worries me right now. But and that goes to the perspective again of the time frame of what we're talking about. Because if this is a learning experience for Mikel Arteta, we have structured our 11 and our 18 and our 24 to not put all our chips into the center of the table and win the Premier League this year. We have done what we've done to be in and around the conversation for the next 10
seasons. You don't think that Arteta's going for the Premier League this year?
That's not what I said, Soph. That's not what I said. I said
we're not putting our chips.
I said the things that we are doing right now are about building a team that competes and is in and around the Premier League for the next 10 years. I'm saying it's not being done in the manner of how United and Chelsea and all that do to just try to win it this year and then worry about the rest later. So there is a very long-term process of learning lessons. So while I've forgotten what my original point was,
maybe making changes against Villa. Maybe that's where you were going.
No, well, not so much. My point is that it's more about your comment about this being another notch in how Mikel Arteta evolves as a leader.
Yeah, it has to be.
It must be. And I think that there's a bit of patience required in order to say, you know what?
No.
Okay.
There's been patience. Let's kind of speak in the correct terms. There has been.
I'm not absolving him of this, by the way.
No, and I'm not attacking him of it either. I'm just saying there has been patience. Therefore, this season we expect different results. Now, for me, that has always been not for me. I supported him when we did not finish in the Champions League last season and we got into the Europa League. The goal was to get back into Europe, right? I did not have a meltdown. I was like, you know what? That was the goal. Here we are. This season, for me, has always been about just getting Champions League football, not because I think we can win it, but because of the fiscal joy it brings, right?
Yeah.
So if we finish second, wow, are you joking me? You go eighth, fifth, and then second.
No one predicted second.
You win the Europa League.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, if you finish second in this season when everyone was expecting Liverpool after their quadruple attempt last season to come back and do it all over again, when everyone lauds Harry Kane and the old Tottenham and Son, you know what I'm saying? And Manchester United against Eric Ten Hag and Ronaldo and how that started off and whatever.
Why are you using an American accent?
I don't know why, because
you've gone from Russia to America and we're talking about English football teams.
But my point is, because it sounds more dramatic, like a trailer.
God damn it, I love you, man.
So, with all that said,
so I'm confused now because I don't know if we're arguing or if we're agreeing on this at this point. Like, what's happening? No,
you stopped me in my tracks, so I lost my.
All right, sorry. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
You should never interrupt a Sophie rant. I'm saying that, like, if you want to look at it this way, your point about Mikel Arteta taking something from this and hopefully using it either as fuel,
go on a run,
learning experience. Whether we go on a run now immediately as a result of it,
no, you got to go on a run. You can't.
We are better
4 games,
fortified.
Jared. What is it? 4 games now? We've stuttered.
Right about, but I guess it's all a matter of perspective. 4 games that we've not been our best.
What's
or
the
not
perspective, Jared? That we've been rubbish the last 4 games?
Well, it depends on how you look at it. Some people look at it.
Excuse me, where's the bell? Slacking on this show. Jesus, there's 2 bells and neither one rung. That's the second time we're counting TikTok here at Squad Central.
But no, it's interesting in that some people strictly look at the points you take from every game, and that's the measure of success or failure. Or you can look at the performances and say there's something there that's either positive or negative. But coming away from this game, I'm not terribly deterred in where the team is, because I thought for a good part of the game we were outplaying arguably the best team in England. But good teams, or not good teams, championship winning teams get results.
How many times?
Whether they're playing better or getting the worst of it, they find ways to get results. And that's where Arsenal struggles, that Manchester City has an edge on us. When we don't play our best, we're not getting points.
It's 11 games now, and Arteta's record against City since he's been manager is rubbish. And, at some point, okay, maybe we end up winning the league because we beat, Southampton or whoever. Wolves.
I'll win it that way.
Right? That's fine. That's fine.
We see this in the NFL all the time.
However,
we see teams that just they try, and then they finally get over the hump at some point, and then it's done. Is that not kind of the same thing as we're facing here?
But we haven't overcome the hump because
we
haven't
haven't.
Because we've got 2 games against Manchester City. In the game at home, we didn't get any points from it, and that's a problem.
And that's the difference. If you're a team that competes for top 4, you don't have to beat the other teams in the top 4 race.
Right, but you're competing to be champions of England.
Exactly right. If you want to be a champion, though, now you're in the stratosphere where you have to get something from those games. Now, if we go to the Etihad with Jesus, with Thomas Partey, and come out of there with 3 points, that changes things dramatically.
I hope we don't. I hope we don't go to the Etihad with Eddie Nketiah. I hope we go to the Jesuhad with
Who
Jesus.
Play up front other than Eddie right now?
I mean, really nobody. You've got limited choices. The one that people would call for is probably Gabriel Martinelli, who incidentally is a pretty decent header of the ball, but.
Would you
consider eaten alive? He got eaten alive by the centre backs.
Would you consider playing Trossard up there?
Trossard gets eaten alive by other wingers. It just doesn't suit him or his strengths, in my opinion.
No one on the bench, not even one of the young guys on the bench. There's nobody that can.
Tyrese John Jules is my solution to this whole situation. We're winning the league when Tyrese John Jules comes in. I mean, he's the answer.
You see, this is the problem. Like, as much as we all defended the January transfer window, when you play against a team like City, this is the difference. So it's okay. If you're competing for top 4, like Jared just said, we're fine. We're quids in. We're cool. We're good.
It is. Are you supposed to change around 24 people in 3 seasons, though? I mean, that's my thing about the personnel. I mean,
they change every season. That's the point of not having to do a wholesale change and make it feel like a bottom-up build.
Well, but they're
the right teams that play to win evolve every transfer window. And if not, it's every other transfer window. Well, and the reason why
we've evolved for the last 4 or 5
stagnated. We've evolved in the last 3 transfer windows. Look at Liverpool Football Club. They stopped investing. They should have invested in their midfield. They haven't made those moves. They're languishing. Previously,
Well,
they were
stopped
they were
investing
the
because
kings. They
they
were
lost
brilliant.
they lost their magic. I mean, they only invested in the first place because they sold 2 players for 8 figures.
Yeah, but they continued Luis Diaz. I mean, come on, they're unlucky that Luis Diaz got injured. Darwin Núñez, he's not scoring, but he's helping the team. Like you look at you look at the players that they've invested in the last 3 or 4 windows. What I'm saying to you is, if you want to win the league, you've got to continually be investing.
Well,
And
I would
and
argue,
we
and I would
invest, but
say,
you've got to also, Mike, get marquee players. So what Arsenal Football Club do every window, and we've seen it since Cazorla, Alexis Sanchez, Mesut Ozil,
Well,
one marquee player. Bomb,
I
bomb,
think
bomb.
I think you can win with Moneyball as well, but not just Moneyball. But I agree with you. And
Finally,
I
I spoke to Billy Bean today.
did you?
Did you really?
Yes.
Wow.
Well, that's pretty cool. I know a person that spoke to Billy Bean today. Did you speak to Billy Bean or Brad Pitt?
No, well, listen,
Who played
he's
Billy
like
Bean?
he chills and he knows that Brad Pitt played him in his
Why
life.
did you
So
speak to Billy Bean today?
Well, because actually we're mates, and Billy Bean has been on the show previous a few times, and we
Really?
stayed in touch. I interviewed him on an old show I did years ago, and we kept in touch. And
I spoke to
he's
Andy
coming on.
Rhodes today. I mean, that's my prize of the day, and it
Just,
wasn't even a pleasant conversation.
If you guys have a question, he's going to come on a show with another very special
Oh,
guest.
you're killing me! You're killing me with this. Now, first Vic Akers, now Billy Bean. Now, but I mean, my whole reference to that was, I think that, okay, well, this is going to go down a rabbit hole, but I think, I think we've done well at bringing players in, given the fact that I only have massive guest envy when it comes to Sophie, but then it's not envy because she's the only person that I truly believe could do better with these guests than I could, and she proved it with Vic Akers. So.
Oh, by the way, Vic's family loved that. They were so sweet.
You were amazing with Vic Akers. And as I've told you in private,
you're coming on the part 2 episode. That's the deal.
Oh,
that's done. Yeah,
that would be fantastic. I've always wanted to have Vic Akers on the Gooners podcast.
Well, you're officially invited to part 2 at the end of the season.
I would love to be, and I realized when he came on the Highbury squad that my interview with Vic Akers would have been absolute crap compared to you. And not just because of Kevin's connection to him, but because of your viewpoints on and questions for him. So anyway, I will always concede great guests to you because you do a better job with them than we do.
I love how Jared, it gets like dark in the pool, like, over time.
Just sets the mood with the way Arsenal plays. It was really bright earlier in the day, and now it's just slowly.
Well, but now you can see the hill with the palm. You can see the hill with the palm trees.
It's the unicorn, though. The unicorn always has to be in the frame.
What I mean, and I'm not controlling you. The unicorn goes where it wants to go.
Don't they all, babe? Don't they all?
But I forgot what we, where
Jared needs to take over, and then I'll leave you guys to do a show. I just popped in to say hi.
well, no, we wanted your opinion on this because A, you're you, and B, we know you can let a little bit more loose than you can on the Highbury squad on the Gooners podcast, and C, because we love you, and whatever anyone says, no matter what everyone tells me about you, I still think you're great.
Wow.
Oh God. No, Jared, take this away from me, please. We have some major questions. I've actually started a few things. I don't know if you saw that or not, but we have a few things that I put on there that we wanted to circle back on, and then we'll do our best to try to keep this to like an hour 15. Yeah,
if you ever looked at the private chat, you'd know I obviously did see those things.
Oh.
But
wow.
No, we do have a few in here. I'm going to start with this
way
one.
Too good
Daniel.
for this podcast.
I ruined the whole show. I knew.
I wanted that. Yeah, I saved this because I wanted your opinion on it. So Daniel Robert, I love me some Daniel Robert.
Mm-hmm.
can you just get behind the next 10 seasons? And, I mean, look, we're not going to win it this season, but the next 10 seasons are going to be great.
So now
tough
YOLO
is
doesn't
that?
mean anything, right? Instant gratification is, sometimes not a good thing, right, Jared? And Mike? But win now when you can. American sports, this is what I love about America, the insatiable appetite to win and be winners. And when you smell it and you see it, teams put their money behind it. And actually, we saw Kroenke do that with the Rams last year, and they won the Super Bowl. So I say win now when you
How they're
can.
doing now.
That's a good example of win while you can, because they've taken a dramatic turn for the
Well,
worse
yeah.
since that
A
happened.
lot of Super Bowl teams do tank up.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different dynamic, but it's a good example of what you're talking about for the season that they did win it.
But it's just
Yeah.
the structure and the parity that's built into American sports with the draft and the tanking and all the rest of it. It's sort of set up for that to happen, which, some people like it, some people don't. I'm going to go, well, I'll skip that one since it's Daniel again. We'll go to Mark. And this is a good one going into the weekend, as we talked about some of the subs today. So, Soph, I'll send this one to you. We got Villa on Saturday. What, if any, changes are you making based on what you saw today?
I would, you know what? I would play Tierney. I would bring Ben White back. If Partey isn't fit, Jorginho plays. I would like to maybe see Jorginho with Fabio Vieira, even though I don't rate Vieira, because Xhaka hasn't been great, but he will start Xhaka with Jorginho, Odegaard. I would like to see Trossard on the left, give Martinelli a run up front for a game like this. Not because I want him to be physically abused by centre-backs for the rest of the season, but maybe for a game like this, it could be an interesting spin and something of an X
Who are their
factor.
centre-backs? Mings and...
Oh my God, I'm having a brain fart. Yeah, well, Mings, who, by the way, is actually having a better season this year than he did last year, but that was because he and Gerrard didn't really get on well, so you didn't really see the best of him, and he took the captaincy away from him. But this Villa team are really going to be ready for us, And Chambers played in the last game as centre-back, but let's be honest, Daniel Robert, he shouldn't have, right? That was bad.
That's your guy, though. That's your man.
Yeah.
I love the Chambers Nicolaou story.
Yeah, it's great. It's funny. But yeah, no. I mean, those are I don't know. What do you guys think?
It's interesting. And I know Daniel put another question in here that kind of piggybacks on that one. If Partey's fit for the weekend, after what you saw from Jorginho today, who are you playing in your midfield between Xhaka, Partey, and Jorginho? Do you make any dramatic changes and let Jorginho stay in, or do you go right back to Partey Xhaka that's been successful for the most part for the entire season?
If it's a muscle injury, do you really think he's going to be back at the weekend? I don't. Do you?
He'll be back for the weekend, but the weekend that he's going to be back for is in August of 2025.
Yeah, it feels like anytime he says he felt something, that's a month. It's unfortunate, but it's just one of those guys. You're never talking days, you're talking weeks, and it comes back to kill us every time we really need him.
I mean, I think that Jorginho played well enough if Partey is not like, at his best to play, and I'd rather have him for the rest of the season than risk him
completely,
for this game. Especially, Aston Villa have a good midfield, Kamara, David Luiz. They've got good options, but I would rest him if that was the case.
I would tend to agree. One, because Jorginho looked like he slotted in pretty well. And two, regardless of the matchup, every game's worth the same 3 points. And I don't want to send him out there injured for one game and then have him miss the next 4 or 5, which is something that I think is always on the table when you've got a guy with a muscle injury that consistently seems to miss games here and there. Yeah,
I'm looking at their lineup, Jared, against City, because City played the 3-2-4-1 and Villa played the 4-4-2.
Aaron Ramsey maybe in.
Watkins and Bailey, and Ramsey played on the right, Buendia on the left. He did make like 5 substitutions in that game, of course.
But this is one of those games where it really doesn't matter who's on the pitch or not. It's Emi Martinez, and I mean, we'll have a penalty and he'll save it. It's Unai, or as you like to call him, Unaya Emery. It's the thing that you do wrong that I love the most. Unaya just has this thing on us, and I mean, and you know, and it's a 12:30 kickoff, which isn't great.
No, it's 4:30 a.m.
I mean, yeah. Honestly, are you doing a post game show after
No.
All right, so
got a big day tomorrow, so no.
Yeah.
Well, look, I loved hanging out with you guys. I'm gonna duck out and let you guys do your thing. Thank you for having me.
No,
So-
thanks for joining. You've got probably the only person out there that's got an open invitation anytime we're on. If you want to join,
Thank
you're on the show without
you.
question.
Maybe I'll jump into your post game at the weekend.
You know what? You're always welcome. You don't need, we don't need to set up a special link for you. You always have it, and without doing what I would do if we were off air right now, I can't tell you how much I love and support you right now. And
Love you guys. Thank you so much. Do you think I should order ribs or like a beef dip or
I have 9.5 pounds of crab legs left that I ordered yesterday from some restaurant supply.
So
store,
hungry. I'm
thinking
gonna go.
it was the stupidest thing I've ever done. I ordered 10 pounds of crab legs. It arrived in a huge box, and I realized I'd neither have the storage, the appetite, or the ability to properly preserve these things. So
Fine.
come
I'm
on
gonna go
over,
get a lobster roll.
have
There
some
you go.
crab.
Go drive
but,
down Newport Beach and get a lobster roll. See ya.
But Soph, I love you and Tony, and we'll talk soon.
Take care.
Thanks. So, all right, Mike, we got a couple more questions before we get out of here. We'll try and get out before the top of the hour. So we'll pump them in. You can just take all of these. And ribs are always the correct answer, by the way.
Ribs.
So Daniel Robert again. Is it the end of the world this season if we finish third with no trophy? So no Europa League. We'll have Champions League football.
Oh, that's such a good question. Is it? I can talk myself into being okay with that, but it is going to be pretty fucking disappointing.
I agree.
Although if the end, let me change this question around. Is it the end of the world if we finish second with no trophy? Is it really any different? Or is it just the fact that Manchester United will have gotten in front of us? Because I'm assuming that's who would claim second from us. If we finish second to Manchester City with no, and now I'm coming to the answer of that. If we finish second with no trophy, and the only trophy we're involved in if we finish second is the Europa League, and with the number of teams that are in the Europa League that are, pretty significant dropping down, let's just assume we're not going to win the Europa League. If we finish second to Manchester City, I will be thrilled with that. If we finish third behind City and United, because of the fact that I will be shitting my pants at what United might be able to accomplish with their money to continue to build upon this team and their new found fiscal / chemistry responsibility with their club, and not just buying the latest thing and actually building a team and following our example, that will piss me off more, because not just because we finished third, but because I think that we'll have a tougher time next season if that happens. So yes, Daniel Robert, it is the end of the world if we finish third with no trophy.
Yeah. I'm not into the world type of guy, but I'm with you. I don't want United to finish ahead of us. I thought what you said there was spot on, but it would certainly be disappointed given the way we played this year and the quality. That my hope is that even if we can't,
they've been shambles. They didn't deserve to beat us. They didn't deserve to be into the game as long as they were when we finally overcame them. They've shit the bed in so many different cases, and yet they're still there. And what's worse is they're figuring it out. They're not just winning because of pure brute talent. They're winning because they're actually building a side. And that's what worries me, because as long as they kept doing the Ronaldo thing, and as long as they kept doing the Jadon Sancho thing, like they just clearly didn't get it. Like, they were doing what Chelsea is doing now. And my fear is that they've sorted it out. And that depresses me, because they're now a challenger, because they've got more money than we do to throw around. And if they've sorted it out mentally and with a team and a team building standpoint, then they're going to really be tough to beat in the next couple of seasons.
Yeah, they've definitely done a lot of good work to set themselves up for the future in the way we have. I'm going to go to one more question. We'll end on this one. This one obviously meant for you. When is Magic Mike coming back to London so we can eat lamb ribs together? And more importantly, Arsenal can start winning again.
All right, let's go over this. Tottenham, we won. Manchester United, we won. Then I left. We lost to City in the Cup. Not the worst game in the world, but, hey. Lost to Everton. Drew against Brentford. And, we have our own opinions about whether that was a capitulation or a robbery. Lost against City. Pay me to go back there. I don't have an unlimited amount of money. Pay me, and I will go back there. I will force people to give up their tickets so that I can sit in their seats, and we will win the league. I do a lot of good charitable work. Okay, I'm not tooting my own horn, but okay, I try. But like, get me over there without me having to fund it, and everyone email my wife, please.
Yeah, she'll
and
love
tell
that.
her that there is a bigger cause than our marriage that needs to happen right now, so that I'm not the one who has to say that. Because if I say that, the marriage is over. Get me over there, and I will guarantee you a league title. Or maybe I just made a mistake going on AFTV after the Manchester United game and saying that it was over. I mean, that could also be the case, but I need to be back over. As for when I am actually coming back over, it more than likely will be at some point between now and the end of the season. But I don't want it to be too late. We need to have lamb ribs. Kang Ree wants lamb ribs. Mark Bacredan wants lamb ribs. Lamb ribs are I mean, Jared, you are both a normal person, a very calm person, a professional person. I am the opposite of all those things, but lamb ribs, no one's talking about the impact of lamb ribs on Arsenal's championship campaign right now. And I think it needs to be talked about more. And karaoke at the Arsenal Tavern on Friday night. No one's talking about that. So right now, I know Jared, and he's thinking we need to end this. Because Mike is going completely off the rails. So if that's the case, let's end it. But yeah, I mean, I gotta get over there. We need to have more men getting in bed with me shouting it's football day, because when that's not happening, when we're having to use like stored videos for that to get the hype going, this is what's wrong with Arsenal right now. So pay me, get the fundraisers together. Use whatever fundraising platform you need to, and I will appeal to my wife and say, I'm being called into action, and I will go. If nominated, I will go.
Well, there you go. Everybody in the chat, you heard it right there. The job has been put on you. You know what to do, and that's where we're going to end today's show. So for everybody tuning in, thank you so much. Be sure to drop a like on the video while you're here. Subscribe if you're new. Hit the bell so you don't miss any updates on lamb ribs, Mike's next trip over, or anything else that's happening in his personal life. And we will be back with you soon. And as always, come on, you Gooners.
Watching the Gooners podcast, a production of TGP Media, a wholly owned subsidiary of Wanker Broadcasting Company Limited PLC. All rights and likenesses, except for Owen's, are available for purchase and distribution according to the historical tenets of bird law. Make sure to check out the Gooners podcast Patreon at patreon.com/TGP. Find Gooners v Cancer at goonersvcancer.com. And don't forget, get them credit cards out. The Gooners podcast has been brought to you thanks to a generous investment from Elon Musk, as well as the letter G and the number 69. Remember, Gooner family, that Tottenham get better